The project car is never truly finished, but after 4 years, I would think that my RX-7 would be more complete than this. It still needs to be painted and completely reassembled. More importantly, it needs more power, which is what this YSI blower from A&A Corvettes is for. The first step on our reassembly is actually to make a modification to the front timing cover here. We need a spot to drain the oil out of the blower. The old blower is actually a self-contained unit. You fill it, it has its own oil in it. The new blower is actually fed engine oil from one of the side ports on the engine block. So we have to have a way for this to drain back into the oil pan. The crank pulley for our setup is massively different. This is a 6-rib design that this particular pulley doesn't even have a provision for AC because I knew that I wasn't going to be running it. What this one allows us to do is have a drive belt for the supercharger setup and then also a drive belt for this jack shaft right over here that will then ultimately drive our alternator.
I don't think we're there yet.
Well, we thought we were getting fancy, and it turns out we didn't read far enough. We basically used this idea from ICT Billet. They make a dual drain option for a twin turbo car, and we missed the part in the fine print that said that it would only work with certain crank pulleys.
You really need to learn how to read.
Ultimately, what our solution ended up being is this ICT billet front cover that is set up for a twin turbo setup. This is a billet piece, and it is basically completely different, where the fitting comes in from the side, will allow us to have clearance with that harmonic balancer. Now, in the meantime, we kept ourselves busy with several other modifications that needed to be done. This piece right here was previously there for the power steering reservoir, which we're not going to be needing because I have the throttle body flipped over. We needed to add some clearance for that. And then this piece here, as part of the kit, used to be somewhere right around that location, and we had to move that out of the way. Now, one thing we're still working through is going to be the drive belt assembly for that alternator. I have a number of different pulleys that I've been trying a couple different combinations to get the belt tension right. I think ultimately what's going to be our best bet, though, is if we use essentially a hollowed out power steering pump with the power steering pulley. This will act as an idler and allow us to get the proper tension. So all these are coming out.
Yep, all those are coming out.
Okay. Okay, now we get to see if our belt is long enough that they supplied with the kit, because I don't remember what I had them send. Well, this worked out exactly like it should. This is going to basically be our idler setup, and it really just aligns everything very, very nicely. And what we'll do is when we want to lock this down, we'll go ahead and put that in place and get the most hood clearance out of this as possible, which now means that we can continue plowing forward.
Is it gonna bottom out? Is it, yeah,
If they told me it'd be good.
it's not touching.
Are you sure it's not touching?
Yeah. I can spin it, doesn't make any crazy noises, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, worst case, it'll self-clearance.
It will do that.
Well, the harmonic balancer is off again. The problem that we're having is when it is torqued down, it is hitting, you can see the marks on each side. And then you can also see the little bit of material that it's pulling off. We thought that it was contacting once it was torqued down. We're gonna have to basically modify this pulley. The nice thing is that from this section back, we don't need. This is the drive for over to the alternator on the jack shaft, and this is the actual drive for the supercharger itself. So we have the room to remove a couple ribs on the backside here. We just have to do it. Yeah, that should work a little bit better. We only had to remove that much. I'm just waiting for this thing to run finally. So obviously this was a performance upgrade. This blower should make well more power than the V3 Ti that was on it, but I have to say that the sound is so much more on par with what I was expecting. There was a certain degree of disappointment with that other supercharger. It didn't have the right sound to it. This thing, it definitely does. Now the other side of the equation is the aesthetics, and this thing is about to go to paint and finally become one color for the first time under my ownership, but we gotta put that hood on and see how much more real estate we have to cut out with this new supercharger. All right, moment of truth time. Hey, that's not bad. It needs some, but that's not bad. Looks like the only additional clearance that we need is just a little bit here because this is just a little bit wider of a compressor housing. I think we're ready for paint. Oh my goodness. The team over at Topcoat Garage has been slaving away on the FD for a couple weeks now. I just picked it up late last night. This is basically my first time seeing this color in the sunlight, and let me tell you what, this thing is absolutely stunning. I've had this image of this car in my head for 5 years now, and to finally see it in person is just absolutely fantastic, but we have zero time to waste. This thing needs another round of cut and buff, but I had to get it from the guys at Topcoat Garage because we are racing this weekend at the RX7 shootout, and this thing absolutely has to be there. A lot has happened since the last time I fired up this camera. I took the car down to JPC Racing, a local performance shop that is very familiar with fuel tech, for some tuning, and before I really even got a chance to fire up the camera, we noticed that we had some issues. Something with the fuel system. We are getting a massive pressure drop the second that it looks like it transitions from vacuum into boost pressure. After verifying that we are getting vacuum from this line here over to the fuel pressure regulator and checking the pumps themselves, I'm pretty sure that this is our issue here. Time to find out. Well, no immediate signs. I was kind of hoping that I'd see just a big tear, which would confirm what we were thinking, that we had a torn diaphragm on the regulator, but that doesn't mean that we don't have some sort of other issue in here that was causing our fuel pressure problem. Go ahead and prime the system and check for leaks. basically what I'm looking for is an increase in fuel pressure when we give it a little bit of load. And honestly, so far, this thing's been all over the place. I've seen 0 at one point, which is why I got out to check it. And then I've also seen 100. So I'm actually almost leaning towards maybe that fuel pressure sensor is bad. All swapped, base fuel pressure is set, and that sensor's defense, I did accidentally drop it when I was swapping things the first time. So it might not have been our original issue, but hopefully that's what our issue was this time. I'm seeing much more consistent numbers now. It's going up. Thank you. Jeez. These last few days have been an absolute blur, but I have the car up here at Racemotive for the RX7 shootout. We figured out the fuel pressure issue, which turned out to be a wiring, basically just miscue. It was something that was labeled in the fuel tech diagram. Number 6 white was an open input when it wasn't. That's where our fuel pressure sensor was. So it was giving us a false reading. We're gonna go do a basically shakedown pass with this thing. If it's good, then I'll stay into it. I'm gonna be a gracious host here because I'm racing my own car with my brother piloting it. I'm gonna go ahead and let you set the pace, okay? Did you put the spicy map in it or what?
You better be on your game. I'm gonna leave you back.
All right, we'll see what happens. After 4 years of work, this car is so close to being complete that I can almost taste it. But we still have some work to do, and in the next video, we're going to put this thing through a thorough test, especially on the quarter-mile drag strip.